Before we get into anything, I want to announce that I am now an affiliate with DualSpec. DualSpec is a premium card sleeve, and if you want to pick some up, you can save 10% by using code DUO or the affiliate link in the description. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Sorcery with Duo. Today is going to be another game review of my quarterfinal game against Pete. Pete is kind of a legend at this point. He's probably participated in the most number of Crossroads events, but also he's top aided numerous of them, and he now that Vegas is done, now has, I think, the most diverse amount of rainbow foils of anyone. He's got a Druid and he's got a sorcerer now. I know in his household they have the most diverse because Lucy, his daughter, also has a avatar of Earth that she got in Houston. So not only is he a really, really good player, but he and his children are all really scary to play against. So much to my chagrin, as I sit across from him in the quarterfinals at Houston. This was the first time we had ever played against each other. We had sat beside each other a lot, but we had never actually sat down and matched up. So I knew he was on Water Fire Druid, a version of Hot Springs or Steam, as whatever you call it. And this matchup can be pretty tough. The deck runs a lot of really good uniques, and knowing that, I chose to go second. I know I mentioned in my other game against these aggro decks, I had been really liking going second because I felt the extra card and the scry gave my deck a chance to find the answers I would need, even though they have the early pressure potential. We both go into the tank pretty heavily on our scry. I'm sorry, we both go into the tank pretty heavily on our mulligan. My hand is pretty good into this matchup, but my sights aren't great. Two deserts and a Valley of Delight can get me at least one air threshold, but and I can cast everything, but I'm really trying to decide if I should maybe find some more aggressive pieces myself, or something that's a little better into this matchup, because yeah, the Phoenix really helped me in the mono fire game, but against Steam or Hot Springs with their access to water, I know Pete is on Mesmerism. Mesmerism essentially took out my friend who played Pete just the round before this, because he played a Phoenix and it got mesmerism. So I scry and I see an Infernal Legion and I put it to the bottom. I know that card did really well for me in the finals, but again, I was really scared about mesmerism in this game. I don't know why. I was a little traumatized. Also, the 6 mana that is Infernal Legion's costs I was worried I was going to be able to get to that point. So I start by playing my Valley of Delight. So my opening hand was Phoenix, Colicky Dragonettes, and a Pact with the Devil. And I'm on the draw. So I already have a card up. And with the Pact with the Devil, I can have 3 cards more than Pete. Pete does something very interesting on his second turn. So turn 1, he plays a Sight and passes. He's got a signed Druid, which looks really cool because it looks like it's signed with red and blue ink, because he's playing Water Fire, which just makes total sense, and that's really neat. So he plays on his first turn, he plays a Sight, and on his second turn, he draws a spell, taps, draws a Sight, and passes. which gives me essentially first turn tempo and second turn card advantage. And I haven't talked to Pete about that decision. I know in watching him play a prior game, he pulled his opponent up to the site. He like lured him in essentially to where he pulled his opponent to the 2 squares forward, having him play a site there. And it gave Pete all sorts of access to attack him and give him vectors of give him positions of attacks where he couldn't block as easy. So that was an interesting choice. I think that's what he that was an interesting choice. I think that's what he was trying to do, was to have me overextend. But for me, this matchup isn't if I can race them down. It's can I weather the storm and stick a large minion. So my turn. I draw a spell. It's the Ring of Morrigan, which is great. However, it's not as safe to play in this matchup as it is against the mono fire list or the like an Avatar of Air, for instance, because he's on water, and I know for a fact he's running swaps, and so I can't so freely play the Ring of Morrigan because there's a really good chance he can just swap it away, put his minion on me, and take my ring. And that risk is just not worth it. So I elect to not play it. I play my desert forward. I'm really excited about playing my basic sites forward or my ordinary sites forward because I know being on water, he's likely running Atlantean Fate, and it gives me some sort of insulation in where I can play my threats. I play another desert to kill his Tawny. He moved up. As you can see, I decided to not move my Tawny up, and I think he really wanted me to move my Tawny up because he wanted to desert my Tawny. So I kill his Tawny with my desert, play the Colicky Dragonettes, and get a damage in. And, that damage is pretty inconsequential. I don't really care about the 1 damage I'm getting on him, but any kind of incremental value I can get in between the start of the game and when I can stick a threat, it makes it that much easier to close the game. So I draw my second air threshold, and my threshold is fixed at this point, except for any of my water sites, which right now I'm okay with because if I have water sites, he can play Ludbot Cats to them in an aggressive, like very forward position. And me not seeing water sites right now is good, except for the fact that I very soon see Sir Agravain. And without my water sites, I cannot play that Sir Agravain. It's fine. It's one of the few instances I've ever had issues playing Sir Agravain. For instance, had I played my desert first and waited to play my other sites, I could have played my Valley of Delight as a water site to have access to my Sir Agravain, but there were more important things going on that I didn't want to press the issue. There is also something important where typically against Hot Springs or a Steam Druid or a water deck in general, if I'm playing Druid, I'll play a desert or another basic site, another ordinary site, I should say, underneath myself. That way I have assurance that if they do play Atlantean Fate, I can flip into my Bruin and more safely have that Bruin stick around rather than them just sit on their Atlantean Fate and wait for me to flip and then play the Atlantean Fate to my site that my Bruin's on, and if it's non-ordinary, it now kills my Bruin immediately. So playing my Valley of Delight was actually against kind of a best practice that I have into this match because it doesn't let me flip into my Bruin safely. So I get my 4th mana, I Pact with the Devil, I draw the 3 spells, and like I mentioned, one was Sir Agravain, one was a Chorusum Kobolds, and one was a Disenchant. And Disenchant was a big reason why I was on air instead of water in this deck to begin with. But Pete is going into the tank on this turn, and he ends up playing a pond and ponding out his Panorama Manticore. His Panorama Manticore comes down on a pond on turn 4. So all of that early pressure I had talking about how him drawing a sight early and not drawing a spell is pretty much evaporated because he's able to ramp out a 5-power airborne minion. And that does a few things. It essentially forces me to draw a sight here because I do have the Disintegrate in hand, and the reasonable way to get to that Disintegrate is by drawing a sight, playing the sight, summoning Tawny in range of the Manticore to disintegrate the Manticore. Fortunately, I draw a Beacon, which now lets me get up to 6 mana, play my Quarterfinals Kobolds, kill his Tawny, disintegrate his threat, and be a mana up. So things are going pretty good. My hand is already dwindling down to 4 cards. And looking at it, I think I know I'm like planning on playing that Phoenix next turn, but I really want to make sure that that Phoenix doesn't come down flagrantly and just eat a Disintegrate. I'd like to have some other units eat removal. His Desert comes down, kills my Tawny. His Violent comes down. And it was funny, I was kicking myself on the placement of that Quarterfinals Kobolds because had they survived, they would have been in a really awkward position to where I could either attack, or they're not in a position where they can strike anything, so they'll die, or I can move and have them strike myself, but I don't get the attack. So the fact that he Violent, it made me feel a little less bad because it was ultimately inconsequential. But I do end up just playing the Phoenix after drawing a sight. So draw a spell, tap to draw a sight, and the Phoenix comes down to eat the Violent. I play it as far away as from his units as possible. I don't know if he's running Shadow Strike. If he is, the cat can kill the Phoenix because it's a water minion, and the Phoenix is immune to fire effects, and combat is an ability, I should say. And I wanted to play it far away from Tawny, so he had a harder time casting any sort of position-based removal like a Disintegrate or a Mesmerism, because both of those are nearby. So the Phoenix is played across away in a defensive spot, but also, in my opinion, the most survivable spot I could muster that was also had a vector of attack on the following turn. So he does get in some damage with his cat. I have no blockers. He decides to attack with his Tawny. I take 5 this turn, and you can see like a relatively non-aggressive start, and my health is already down to 14. And 14 is pretty easy to close, especially as we get later in the game with cards like Ruler of Thule and Boudica and Sir Agravain. So I'm not feeling super comfortable here. On my turn, I drawn the Morgana Le Fay, and I draw another spell this turn. I'm really looking for something like a Whirling Blades or a Grapple Shot to deal with that cat. Oh, I realized we both realized he didn't play a spell. So he plays his Pact with the Devil. So now we have parity almost on card draw. I drew my 3, he draws his 3. And he's got, I mean, a million cards in hand at this point. He does keep his tokens in his hand, so it's a little representative of how many cards, spells, and sights he has in his hand. But he's got a lot of cards with the Pact, with the drawing the extra card. So my turn, I draw a card, and it's, I think, another Grimgris Arm. And I really want to get rid of the Ludbog Cat, because the Ludbog Cat is not a fire minion. It can reasonably deal with my Phoenix if he has a Shadow Strike. So I am going to just dig into my deck to see if I can find a grapple shot, because now I have 6 mana with six sites on board, and I'm going to play the Morgana Le Fay for 3 and hope I hit a grapple shot. So I'm just trying to decide where I'm going to play this Morgana Le Fay. The reason I'm thinking about it so heavily is because I want to play it as safe as I can, and I ultimately move it to my back right square because, for instance, if I don't draw a grapple shot and he's running something like fire breathing, well, I'm not able to kill his Bloodbuck Cat. His Bloodbuck Cat is a beast, so he can now cast fire breathing from his Bloodbuck Cat to kill my Morgana. Fortunately enough, the Morgana sees the grapple shot and 2 Quarrelsome Kobolds. I'm only able to cast 1 spell from them, but the grapple shot is enough to deal with the Bloodbuck Cat and get it on the other side of the map. And then I attack onto his desert, being really conscious of staying on his ordinary sites. So I'm feeling really great about that turn, even though I just got 4 damage in. You know, the grapple shot could have been 8 damage. Clearing the pressure felt really good for me, and it was really lucky to see that grapple shot. I mean, that's what the play I was trying to go for, but I saw it. And so Morgana is not super protected, but I think there's a chance that I might be able to get to play the 2 cards out of Morgana's hand before she dies, because of how far Morgana is away from anywhere he can play a site. So if he plays a site to summon Tawny, it's now too far for a minor explosion, which we've already seen him minor explosion 1 time to kill my Colicky Dragonettes. And then his avatar couldn't take a step up to minor explosion that far away either. So I think I'm going to get some more value out of this Morgana. I think, yeah, he has a ton of cards in hand, but I've got some cards too, and my Morgana's got cards too. And 2 of my cards are Grimgris Arms, and the Grimgris Arms, having multiple of them, it feels really scary because if I'm not able to get immediate value and Death's Door Pete immediately, because he runs Mesmerism or I don't know if he's running Infiltrate, but I know for a fact he runs Mesmerism. He can take my minion with the 2 Grimgris Arms and get value back out of it immediately, or give it to one of his units, and it becomes a huge liability. So he ends up playing the Warhorse to get the mobility to his Violent, and plays the Trinket to the Violent to now give it 3 power and attack into my Morgana, making me discard my 2 Quarrelsome Kobolds I had underneath the Morgana. So I don't get the extra turn out of Morgana like I was hoping, to stick to relatively big threats, especially with Grimgris Arms. They're good at removing things. Pete does play his desert to summon his Tawny across the map, and he has a Morgana of his own. So the card parity is insane. We both played Pact with the Devil. We both played Morgana Le Fay. I know now he has a Trinket in hand and a Warhorse in play, and a Warhorse, coincidentally, is a beast as well. So I'm having to stay cautious about the fire breathing if he's running them, because he has so many beasts that can be the spellcaster of that fire breathing. So look down at my hand, and it's not great. The Agravain cannot be played. He played his Morgana in a really great position that can be defensive, so my 2 Grimgris Arms in hand can't just immediately equate to Death's Door, because he can elect to block. So I draw a Sir Lamorak, which feels great, but I want to keep that Sir Lamorak around for if he has a Bruin. If he plays Drums of Doom, Sir Lamorak can move into the drums and die immediately, and Death Right will kill a bunch of his stuff. But I don't have a ton of options here, and I go into the tank pretty hard on this turn. I'm thinking about playing the ring and throwing Tawny into the Warhorse, and then playing Sir Lamrack to ping the Warhorse and kill it. But I'm really too cautious, really too scared to give him my ring, even though I do have the disenchant. I don't want to force myself to take a turn to disenchant his ring. I'd rather put some pressure on, and I really thought heavily on this turn for a few reasons, because I felt his Morgana had really good cards under them. I mean, it's Hot Springs Druid. It runs a bunch of really powerful uniques, and the more cards you draw, the more likely you are to see them, and they combo so well together. So I tap and draw my second sight for the turn, and I'm looking at those two Grimgris Arms and doing the math with that Ascalon Phoenix, thinking, okay, I'm gonna ask a really big question here. Pete, do you want to go to death's door? Because if he has really good cards under his Morgana, but he doesn't want to go to death's door, he's gonna have to make that sacrifice to lose those cards by blocking with his Morgana. My Phoenix will survive, even though the strike damage is tripled. And because his Morgana is a fire unit, and my Phoenix is relatively far from any of his spellcasters currently in play. So I do end up making the decision to play double Grimgris Arm, and with the doubling effect of the Grimgris Arms, the Phoenix attacks for 16. 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So, yeah, not tripled, quadrupled. And Pete has to think pretty heavily on this block, because turns out the Morgana does have great cards under it, and ultimately elects to go to death's door, because he knows on his turn he can door me in return. I moved my Tawny up into the middle for a few reasons, to get away from where he can play a desert and kill the Tawny, but also to get closer to where those Grimgris Arms are. Should he decide to mesmerism my Phoenix, I can then, in response, move if the Tawny's still alive and disenchant it. So I'm just trying to get Tawny in a little bit better, a little bit safer position in front of me. Now, one thing of note is my Phoenix is still on the desert, but it's far away from his avatar now, and I really want that Phoenix to be able to get in and do the death's blow. But it's still on that ordinary site. If he were to play Atlantean Fate and somehow submerge the Phoenix, the Grimgris Arms would go with it, and I would feel a little better. But it turns out he doesn't even need the Grimgris Arms, because with the Morgana in play and with his Warhorse, he is able to death's door me by playing a Boudica, which gives everything of his +3 power while successfully attacking a site, and I have no eligible blockers. So Morgana comes in with a trinket. Well, the Warhorse comes in first on the site directly in front of me for 5. And then all he has to do is attack with his trinketed Morgana, 4 power from the Morgana plus the trinket, and then the additional 3. Death stores me. And that lets him not even have to tap his Tawny and attack me. And now he's sitting pretty comfortable with a lot more board presence than I have. And units in my face, whereas my unit is feeling pretty susceptible with the 2 Grimgris Arms and not in a great position to get to him. So he ends up playing the Boudica off to the right. I think he's trying to keep it just away from where my Phoenix is likely to go. And if I'm going to attack his Boudica, it keeps my Phoenix far to the to the right of him. So he Death Doors me. He elects to not move his tawny, and on my turn, I'm pretty much forced to flip. I draw a spell. It's the Great Famine, which is a great card. It's really good at getting rid of Bruin, and that's what I'm thinking I'm gonna do with it. But I need to deal with this Warhorse. All game I've been playing around fire breathing. I don't even know if Pete is on fire breathing, but the card is good. So I think, oh, I really need to go kill this Warhorse, because right now I can kill his Morgana, which is a spellcaster. If I flip, his Tawny can't really move super great because I will have the Thorns. And then if if the Warhorse is alive, it's already in a great position to cast the fire breathing. So count up my mana. I've got enough to play the Sir Lamrak and the Ring of Morrigan, and the combination of the damage from the Ring of Morrigan casting this and the spell cast and a tawny attack is enough to kill his Warhorse. The Lamrak coming down also feels really good, because if it dies even a space in front of his Druid, it kills his Bruin, and that makes me one step closer to winning this game. So I have to flip. I play my Ring of Morrigan, and I play my Sir Lamrak immediately in front of me. That way I can just take steps forward to attempt to close this game out. So Lamrak comes down, and I attack with the Tawny to kill the Warhorse. I attack the Boudica I attack the Morgana with my Phoenix. With its airborne ability, I can attack to kill my Phoenix, and now and neutralize that really big threat. So we're both on door, and he has a bunch of cards in his hand. So I'm a little nervous here, but as long as either one of my forward minions survive, I feel okay about this. If I can keep my Bruin alive and kill his Bruin, I can move up and cast a spell and end the game with a ring ping. So with the cards I see a route to finish this game. However, he checks the site that my avatar is on and sees it's a Valley of Delight, which, surprise, surprise, is not an ordinary site. And like I mentioned, my best practice is generally play an ordinary site underneath my avatar at the first turn of the game to insulate from Atlantean Fate. And after he looks at that, I'm pretty confident I'm about to get Atlantean Fated. And I'm thinking, oh, it won't be too bad. My Bruin will die. My ring will go to the subsurface. That's not the end of the world. But then I start to look at where my site placements are otherwise, and I count up my threshold and realize I'm about to be on one single air threshold due to the beacon that's way over there on that furthest left site. So he draws a site, and he needs it to get up to 7 mana because he's going to do something pretty clever. And even though I think I'm playing all insulated against the Geyser play, or against the, even though I think I'm playing all insulated and protected against his Atlantean Fate, getting up to 7 mana enables him to play a Geyser on my desert, making it a water site. And Atlantean Fate, even if it's an ordinary site, will submerge everything atop a water site. So he plays the Atlantean Fate in a position that's going to turn off all 3 of my air threshold, kill my Lamrak, which, because Lamrak dies in the subsurface, his death right will strike everything in the subsurface, which is nothing, and puts me way behind on closing this game out. he's considering moving Tawny forward. I think that would have been the right play. Or he does move Tawny forward. On my turn, and this is really big, I untap, and essentially I need something that's going to kill his Bruin and allow me to win the game with like a direct damage or an attack or something, and I end up top decking the Whirling Blades. Now, really importantly, I only have one air threshold, but I do have a site in hand to give me up to 7 mana. That site is a desert, which doesn't give me my air threshold I need, but that disenchant I held on to oh so importantly does remove the Atlantean Fate, which makes my air sites become air sites again and gives me the second air threshold I need to cast a Whirling Blades. Also, Whirling Blades lets my Phoenix move with its airborne ability diagonally 2 steps, striking everything along its path, killing Bruin in the process, and then because it's untapped, because Whirling Blades doesn't require the target to tap while it's taking steps, I get to attack his avatar directly and win the game. So very lucky. He had pretty much no matter what I did. If I didn't win that game, he was going to be able to win with either a lava flow or a blaze with an attack from his avatar or something like that. So huge congrats to Pete, especially on his continued success throughout these crossroads he's going to. But yeah, I just got really lucky. Drew one of my 2 Whirling Blades exactly when I needed it, and was able to close out the game. So, but really fun game. Love feedback. Let me know if you would have done something different. I love the insight of what all you amazing players would do in these situations. And leave comments and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.